All right, welcome to today's mission brief where we're going to be talking about Cowboys and Indians. I loved playing it as a kid. Who didn't? And I loved watching Westerns. I had action figures of the Lone Ranger and Tonto and his horse Silver, and love all things Western. But as I started studying American history, I was really drawn towards Stephen Ambrose. Ambrose has written amazing accounts from American history. He wrote Band of Brothers, which chronicles Easy Company through World War II. And one of my favorites is Undaunted Courage, which is a detailed study of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Absolutely incredible. You got to read that. And today I'm going to talk to you about his book called Crazy Horse and Custer: The Parallel Lives of Two American Warriors. This is an incredible, parallel biography on these two men. There's a chapter on Crazy Horse and then one on Custer, and then back and forth. And you kind of see each man growing up, each man becoming the top of his profession as a warrior in his society. And then ultimately these two men meeting on the battlefield at the Little Bighorn. Famous battle. Here's what's amazing about this book that I want to talk about. Just about everybody would agree. There's a huge consensus. Pound for pound, one for one, the Indian was the better warrior. During the Indian Wars, during westward expansion, the Indian was the superior warrior. He could live off the land. His horses could ride farther on less food. He could go days without eating, days without drinking. He was quieter, stealthier, could live off the land better, could fire arrows silently, dead on target, while riding full speed without a saddle, switching horses. They could ride full speed on a horse, gripping it so well with their legs that they could lay down on the front of the horse and fire arrows from underneath the horse's neck while it's running full speed. Absolute tremendous warriors the American Indians were. And they had the home field advantage. This was their land. They were like ninjas on it. Supreme warriors in every sense. Why did they lose? Why did these great warriors lose time and time again to the Cowboys, to the white soldiers, to these men who, I'll just say we here because I'm white, I'm European. We needed food, we needed wagon trains, we needed powder, we needed everything in order to fight. We had to bring it with us. They could live off the land. We made a lot of noise, left a big footprint. They were quiet and self-sufficient. So why did they lose? And if you've ever wondered that like I did, then you got to check out the book, Crazy Horse and Custer. But let me just give you the big answer overview. Check this out. The biggest problem that Crazy Horse had with his fellow Indians in battle was that for an Indian in their culture, personal bravery meant everything. It meant everything in their culture to be the first out of the gate, to do the most daring individual act, to ride up and touch the enemy, to ride out and slap the enemy's horse, to single-handedly charge into the opponent. These were acts of tremendous courage to them. We would call it crazy. But this is what they did in their culture to earn points. They called it counting coup. And they actually kept track of score. Who had counted coup the most? Who could do the craziest thing? Who was the most daring young brave? So it was all about the individual. So time and again, when Crazy Horse would try to set an ambush for the white men, he could not get his warriors to stay still and stay quiet. They were always springing from cover, always bolting too soon, because they wanted the personal bravery recognition of being the first one out. And he was always trying to get his men to stay hidden, stay down, wait until we've drawn them in closer, wait until we've got them surrounded. He could never do it. They were always jumping out from cover, yelling and screaming and running and charging to prove their personal bravery. But ultimately, it gave the Cowboys, the white soldiers, plenty of time to react because they're jumping from cover too soon. Whereas the number one thing that the white soldiers, the Cowboys, if you will, had going for them, the number one thing that made them incredible warriors was their teamwork. You see, if everybody who's been in the military understands this, nothing in our military is about the individual. Nothing is about you as an individual. You lose all sense of individuality and independence. You are created into the unit. And when that unit is told to stand still, when you're put at the position of attention and you're left standing there, nobody moves. See, this would be unheard of to the Indians. They're not following that order. They're not standing still. Whereas you can take a group of American soldiers and put them in a formation, and nobody will as much as even scratch their nose. No one will even swat a mosquito off their own neck. We have the discipline to stand perfectly still, to follow orders to a T, and to move and attack as one unit. The difference between the Cowboys and the Indians was that of individuality and independence versus the unit and the band of brothers. Crazy Horse saw this, and he knew it was a superior strength that the white people possessed, and he tried to instill it in his fellow Indians. And he was constantly frustrated about this. Well, the one time he got them all to do it the way he wanted, the way the white men did, was at the Battle of Little Bighorn, and they stayed down enough to draw in Custer. And of course, Custer was overly confident, went in with way too few people, didn't have any reinforcements, outnumbered tremendously, and met his demise and was conquered and defeated at the Battle of Little Bighorn by Crazy Horse. But that was such a rare occurrence on the frontier. That's why it's so infamous, is because it was rare. The U.S. Army 7th Cavalry got defeated by Crazy Horse and his Indians. But that wasn't the norm. That was the exception. It was the exception. It was rare for the individual Indian warriors to ever win because they refused to act together as a team. This is our strength, man. This is what I want you to understand. Our strength as warriors throughout history, when you study armies from any time period, our strength as men comes from our tribe. It never comes from the individual. The Lone Ranger was a myth. All the great things that have been done have been accomplished by a team, a tribe, a posse, a platoon. The individual who is out for himself, who looks out for himself, thinks only of himself, and is trying to score personal points of bravery, will fail, will be defeated by the team, by the unit, 9 times out of 10. Man, if you want to conquer your battles in this life, you must have a band of brothers. That's why Men's Alliance believes 100% in the tribe. That's why we're starting tribes around the country. Getting men out of isolation and getting men into the tribe is our secret to success. And it can't be a virtual tribe. It can't be an online community. It's got to be real It's got to be weekly. It's got to be in person. It's got to be around a fire. There's got to be a shared physical struggle. It's not a book club. We work out together. That's how a band of brothers is built, and that's what we're doing, and that's why it's so important. Even through military history, a superior warrior will lose to a band of brothers who are even average soldiers. That's what we need in our lives, man. Take this lesson from American history, from Custer and Crazy Horse, and get in your tribe and stay there.